This is purely, I'm doing an all-around tier list, okay? So, like, comp, ranked, pubs, everything, alright? So, Wraith, Octane, Gibby, Mirage, Caustic, Rampart, Bangalore, Crypto, Bloodhound, Pathfinder, Revenant, Watson, Loba, Lifeline, Horizon, Fuse. It's that simple. This is for overall. So pubs, ranked, comp. If I'm doing exclusively comp, we'll do this. So the reasoning behind my tier list for this, for competitive, right, is this is your standard comp. This is the most standard. This is NA's standard. Wraith, Gibby, Blood, right? A tier, I got Path, Crypto, Octane, because Octane is like a niche swap for Wraith. You can take advantage of Octane if you're an early rotator and you like to run Bloodhound. If you're stuck on running the Bloodhound crutch, sure, run Octane over Wraith, which is what TSM does. Crypto, really good alternative to Bloodhound if you land somewhere that doesn't have an easily accessible beacon, like Countdown, Train Yard, Harvester, even Sorting Factory, because Sorting Factory usually gets split. Pathfinder, he's one of those characters that if you're not stuck on the Bloodhound crutch, like, in my opinion, TSM should be running Pathfinder. There's no way they shouldn't be running it. They have the best drop in the game. They should run Wraith, Wraith, Pathfinder, Gibby, because Path just lets you rotate early, and you get beacons. You don't need two characters to make that happen. It's a waste of a character. It's a waste of a character slot running Octane with Bloodhound, in my opinion, if you have mid-map. And then B tier. These are your flex characters, your flex aggressive characters. So they're like kind of niche. They kind of define your playstyle and how you play in comp. So Horizon, Revenant, Bangalore, Caustic, right? Caustic, you're going to be really defensive. You're going to be playing for zones. You have the capabilities to be offensive, but after the nerf, you're primarily defense, right? Bangalore, teams that rotate in really, really late and aren't going to be running into people on their during their rotation. Bangalore is really, really good for that because you're able to play in these really, really dangerous spots in endgame and do these crazy rotations because you have two airstrikes, you have smokes, you have all that shit, right? Revenant, super, super niche, extremely niche. So some teams get good use out of him, right? He's going to be super aggressive. I think Revenant gets like the best use out of teams that can rotate early and then like kind of cause chaos in the final zone area, you know, like baiting fights and stuff like that. I think Rev's pretty good. I don't think you want to play Rev if you're on edge, honestly. Maybe some teams can get away with it, but if I was playing Revenant, I would not play him from the edge. Horizon is another really, really good. Horizon's another really, really good edge character because she gives you super, super aggressive fighting potential. Any team that's in a building, if it's the right building and you know like how to black hole someone through a wall to completely destroy the fight, then like Horizon's god tier for pushing. Watson, hear me out on this Watson placement. Hear me out on this. This tier list is comp only. I already did the normal one. Hear me out on Watson. Watson, in my opinion, is extremely undervalued. Okay, so in the current meta, right, especially after the Gibby changes, where you have bleed through on shields, on Gibby's arm shield, you can't just trade for free anymore. Like, you can't just give your Gibby a charge rifle or a sniper or a scout or something, right, and just let him trade for free and farm evos, right? So Watson actually does low-key have a little bit of a use now if you were to combo Wraith, Gibby, Watson. It's super niche, extremely, actually not even Wraith, Gibby, Watson. I think Tech's old comp with Wraith, Crypto, Watson can work if you're a team that rotates super, super early. Like, extremely early. Because then you just run around with, like, you run around with scouts or, like, really, really good mid-range weapons, and you just bot people. Chat, all of you bots saying Horizon is S tier, this is for competitive. This is not, I put Horizon S tier for ranked in pubs. You got your spotlight. This is competitive. This is not ranked or pubs, okay? Yeah, Watson has her niche. Watson has her niche for sure. For competitive, I put all niche characters, extremely niche characters, into B tier. A tier is flex, S tier is standard. The standard team runs this in S tier. A tier, these are alternative picks. These are some teams you're going to see them running it. It's not standard, but some teams can take advantage of it. Niche means that these characters are catered to a specific playstyle to certain teams. For example, the specific playstyle that my team has, we are the only team that runs Bangalore. She's extremely niche, but it's dependent on where you land and how you play that makes them niche. Horizon is B tier. Like, you're not gonna argue with me. I played Horizon in competitive. I've played Bang in competitive. They fill the same fucking role. Or not the same role. They fill like the same slot on a team. It's not up for debate. I've played both comps that use both these characters in comp. They do the same shit. All 4 of these characters, actually. They do the same shit. Not the same shit, but you know what I mean. They fill the same kind of, the same slot on a team. The thing with Path being A tier, and Octane being A tier, right? I said it earlier, I'll reiterate it a little bit. With this being the standard comp that most teams run, right? You have 2 options to flex out here. Gibby is your lock-in. Gibby will always be your lock. Well, 9 out of 10 times, Gibby will be your lock, right? Unless you're like a Bloodhound Caustic team, but I think there's only 1 or 2 of those, right? I'm gonna move all these down, just like ignore this. This isn't anything to do with the tier list. This is just gonna show you an example, right? Of team comps. So, in comp, there's a couple different variations of team comps that you can do, right? So if you're a team like TSM, in my opinion, because they still rotate really early, right? They leave by 2 minutes and shit. Their team comp that they run is this, right? But this comp, in my opinion, is super fucking inefficient. Because they have 1 character for fast rotating, right? They have 1 character for beacon, right? What's 1 character that does both of those? What is 1 character that fills both of those slots? That makes it so you don't need 2 of them. It's Pathfinder. Right? Octane lets you leave your POI really early, but Pathfinder lets you leave even earlier. And he doesn't have low profile anymore, right? So, in my opinion, this is the comp that TSM should be running right now. Gibby Wraith Path. This would be like the freest fucking comp for them. Rotating on zip though is compared to rotating on pad through the sky. Well, yeah, the zip isn't meant for rotating, it's for leaving your POI early and getting to spots quickly. But this is the comp that I would run, honestly. If I had East Fragment, I'd run this every game. Is Wraith necessary? In high-level lobbies, I think she's pretty necessary for most teams. The only reason the TSM gets away with running Octane is because they land mid-map, so they can rotate really fast. That's the only reason this works. But I think that this is just inefficient. I think you can do more if you swapped out Bloodhound and Octane for Wraith and Path. I think Bloodhound's like a massive crutch character, honestly. Like, it's a super crutch character. But like, then you have edge comps, right? Like, teams that play extreme edge like us. So like, an S-tier edge comp IMO, you need Wraith. If you play hard edge, what do you mean by crutch character? I mean that the character does things for you that, like... Okay, so Bloodhound, when I say Bloodhound is a crutch character, I don't mean he's a crutch character in the same way that I call Horizon or Caustic a crutch, right? Bloodhound makes it so that you don't need game sense. You just press a button, and you know where everyone is that's around you, right? Like, that's what I mean by as a crutch. Like, you don't need game sense to play Bloodhound, you just press Q, and then you have all the info you need. Whereas Horizon's a crutch in the sense that you just throw your ult and teams die. And Caustic's a crutch in the sense that teams are in your gas and they just die. Yeah, that's pretty much what I mean by crutch. But if you're an edge team, I think the best comp, dependent on where you go. So for us, for Skyhook, I genuinely believe this is the best comp. Genuinely believe this is the best comp for Skyhook and Trials because of how long it takes us to loot and how... like when we rotate, right? We don't run into anybody on the edge because most teams loot fast and just leave near us. So we can just literally spend the whole game looting and then just play late game. The only people that we really run into is like SF and Zach Mazur's team. But I think most standard, like the most common edge comp, because like 90% of people play edge for some reason, is this. Like, this is the most well-rounded comp. That doesn't really, like, it doesn't matter where you land, you can just run this from everywhere. Because you have a crutch for intel, you have a bubble for free, Like, Bubble's just god tier, honestly. Bubble and Airstrike is god tier. Why doesn't Liquid run Path? So, the reason that we run Path, right, or we don't run Path, is because Path is for leaving your POI early, right? Now, does anyone in chat know how long it takes to clear trials? Almost 2 minutes. In pro play, it's about 2 minutes almost. So that means we're leaving extremely late. Now, what does Path give you in competitive? He gives you the ability to leave your POI really fast, which we can't take advantage of. So there's no reason for us to run Path. Also, because we're extremely far edge, right? Let me show you. Okay, well, this one's kind of outdated, but like, you get the idea, right? This is where we land, right? We take the west side and we take trials, right? So if we tried to leave early, look at all that we have to run through. We either have to run through 3 teams here on our left, or we have to run through CLG on our right, and Complexity. And nobody wants to fight Complexity. So the possibilities of us rotating early is impossible. Completely impossible. Why does no one want to fight Complexity? Because they're the best fighting team in the region. They know how to disassemble a team just fighting them. They're the best fighting team in the region. We play to avoid Complexity at all costs during our rotations. You do not want to fight them. You don't want to get close to them. What we do is we always avoid Complexity and just play snipers against them. We don't bother going near them because they will run us down. But all this shit that we have to rotate through, dude, we can't leave early. We have to fight if we try to rotate early, and there's no point. We just deny ourselves loot, so we just spend like 4 minutes looting the whole entirety of Skyhook and everything. What teams do we avoid? Just Complexity. If CLG ever runs into us, we will always fight CLG. I'm not afraid to fight CLG. I'd prefer not to fight them early, but if they try to go through us, we'll fight them. Why Bang and not Blood? What value do we get out of Bloodhound? Right? Say hypothetically, right? I'll give you guys a hypothetical, right? So we land Skyhook. Zone pulls into Thermal Station, right? We're rotating extremely late. Every spot is going to be taken. The choke will be taken. These buildings will be taken. If it's pulling to the back left, we're fucked. We can't win the game, so we're playing for kills, right? Most of this shit is going to be taken. So what is actually going to be open? Terrible spots. Like, for example, this south gondola right here. We can play under that because we have Bangalore to give us smokes and to give us an airstrike to rotate. We can play extremely terrible positions because we have Bangalore. We can play awful spots. Spots that no other team could get away with playing because we have Bangalore. If all the good teams land in the north, why don't you land in the south? Because the loot in the south is terrible, and all the teams that drop south are really hard-headed about their POIs. Like, we used to drop Tree, right? But Tree has terrible loot, and it's hard edge. So Tree is, in my opinion, Tree is the worst POI in the fucking game. This POI is terrible. Any team that goes here, you're setting yourself up for failure. Don't bother with Tree. Launch site. Oh, this map doesn't even have launch site. Yeah, this map's outdated. Whatever. This shit, launch site as well as thermal are just infinitely better than Tree in every single way. Dome might be a hard contender for one of the worst drops as well. Tree and Dome are terrible. Overlook is goated. Epicenter's really good. Fragment East is really good. Skyhook West is good. Lava Fissure's trash. Mirage Voyage. Harvester's trash. Staging is pretty good. Geyser is terrible. Lava City's okay. Do all teams agree on spots to drop beforehand? No, we fight for our spots. Most of the reason that spots are already predetermined is because a long time ago when scrims were active, people did fight for their spots, and now that scrims aren't active, people kind of already have those spots locked in. Like, there's no, like, fighting for the drop unless you're doing it in a tournament, and most people don't want to do that ever. But you guys get the idea. Why is Overlook goated? The loot is trash? Because Overlook doesn't get trapped by anybody. So look where Overlook is. Look where all the nearest POIs are, right? You've got about 150 meters to 200 meters between POIs. And you have a balloon right here. There's a balloon right here that you can take. What people do at Overlook is they loot really fast, they hit the balloon, and their balloon can get them all the way over here. You can get them into Fragment West, where they can run up the hill and hit the other balloon. So they can rotate from east to west in under 2 minutes and get an early spot. Whereas you look at places like West Sky and Trials, and look at the distance between where we are and where enemies are landing. So we have Lava Fissure, we have Countdown, and we have East Skyhook that we have to worry about within 50 to 100 meters of us. So for example, the reason I called Tree and Dome some of the worst POIs in the game, look at Tree and look at Tree, right? You have Thermal, you have Launch, you have Sorting, all within 100 meters. You have Dome, Launch and Lava and Sorting, all within 150 meters. Geyser's in a good spot.